Hello crafty friends, Valeria here from Chasing Paper, and I hope everyone is doing great today. In my last video I showed you how to turn a little golden book into a junk journal cover. So that's what we have completed in our last video. We completed the cover of our future junk journal, and in this video we are going to add pages. We're going to add signatures into our junk journal. We're going to use all the pages from the book so that we can follow along with the story, and we are also going to add other pages to our journal to make it full and complete. This is going to be a 3 signature journal, which means that we are going to have 3 signatures, so 3 text blocks sewn in here, and we are going to use a 3-hole pamphlet stitch in order to sew the signatures in. After that, we are going to cover the spine on the outside to hide our stitching. Alright, let's roll. And so here I have a great big heap of papers that I just picked for putting into our junk journal. I'm probably not going to use all of them. So as I said, we're going to have a 3 signature journal, and I'm probably going to place about 10 to 12 folded in half pages in each of my signatures. So as I was choosing the pages for this journal, I had a couple of things in mind. So first of all, I was thinking a theme, and so let's look at our cover again. Book is about Barbie going on a photo shoot in like Hawaii. So I was thinking beach, ocean, summer, Hawaii, something girly, something fun, something just that matches the general theme of this book. And I was also thinking the colors. So I had the colors and theme in mind, and with that in mind I picked some scrapbooking papers. Here's the ones, palm tree. And let's look at my scrapbooking papers. Lots of florals. So I was thinking, you know, Hawaiian Island, lots of floral greenery. Here's a beautiful page with all these parrots. And so, yeah, so basically bright, vibrant colors, lots of blues, lots of greens, pinks. And so that gave me the general feel for what I need to choose. And of course I went for some images with beautiful blue skies and sparkling water. And then I picked some fun pages that are not scrapbooking pages, but vintage magazine pages, and they all have to do with like children playing on the beach and the ocean and summer vacations and some beautiful poetry that goes along with that. Here's some pages from home decorating books, and here's some little projects and furniture that I figured you might find at the beach house. And here's from a different book, Screens for Shelter Privacy. So basically like summer projects, summer yards and patios. Here's some sheet music from a vintage children's book. Some interesting texture papers with like green and blue colors, and we have the ledger paper. So you get the idea. Basically I had 2 things in mind, colors and a general summer ocean beach theme. So now I am going to choose the papers for each of my signatures, and I'm going to cut them to size and fold them in half. And so here I am with my papers folded in half and cut to size, just about. They're not cut to size exactly because I'll tell you a secret, we're gonna have to cut them again as we place them where they need to go in the journal. That's going to help us to figure out their exact size. So they've been preliminary cut into just about right size to fit into our journal. And the first order of business is we are going to figure out how much do we need to cut down these pages. Well, you might ask, why do we need to cut them down? They were in this book, so they should fit, right? No, that's wrong. because we're actually, what we did, we cut down the spine in this book. If you remember, they were stapled in. So now they're actually this much wider than the book. Here, I'll show you. Here's where it's going to go in the book, right? And so we're gonna have all this whole white margin is going to be sticking out. So that's an easy fix. We are going to cut them to size. So let's measure. We are going to use this book to find that measurement, and I want to make it just a little bit smaller than the cover. So I'm going to use my pencil here, and I'm going to mark right over here. But because I know that I want it just a little bit smaller than that mark, so I'm going to add another mark, maybe another 1/8 of an inch closer to the spine. And now I'm going to cut it with my paper cutter. All right, so this is my first text block. And there. And cutting my second one right in the same place, just like that. All done. And so now we are ready to put together our 3 signatures. So let's see, what page do we want to put first in our first signature. If you notice, I made 2 pages here. I folded them this way to create a pocket. So I think I want this page to go first, to go in like this. And so I'm going to use it in my first signature. And then I'm going to add something in between. Let's see what would look good. Basically at this point, all I'm doing is just combining papers in a pleasing way. And I'm putting something in between each of our story pages, because I want my signatures to contain about 10 to 12 folded pages. So let's see, that looks good. And I need to add more. So I'm going to continue until the signature is full. And I'm also going to choose what paper I want to go in the middle of the signature. It's always a little bit of a decision because you want a pretty paper to be there. So we'll choose something that's gonna look really nice. So now my first signature is complete. So far I'm very happy with the order it's in. As you can see, the sizes of these pages are still all different, and that's okay. We are going to adjust the size as we are done putting together the rest of my signatures. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 2 of my other signatures together. All right, good. So here we are now. I put together our 3 signatures. I just put the papers in the order that I felt would look nice. So our first signature contains that first block of the story, and I put some pages in between those story pages, just like that. This is my center page right here, center of my signature, and 2 of my other signatures look about the same way. I also put the pages in aesthetically pleasing order. As you can see, they still all need to be cut to size because they are a little bit taller. So as I'm going through my signature right here, I am also double checking, making sure everything looks good. And so far everything looks good. Text, picture, everything looks kinda, you know, pleasing to the eye at the seaside. And so now what I'm going to do here, my 3 signatures, now I'm going to add my smaller elements. So by smaller elements, I mean that I picked out some greeting cards here, and they all kind of go together very nicely with the colors that we used in our junk journal. And this one actually has a sailboat on a cover, so that looks very good. And I also have this beautiful vintage doily, and this one has kind of like tropical flowers and some birds, and so that would add a very nice touch to one of our signatures. And this is a little baggie that we are going also to put in one of our signatures, and it's going to hold some ephemera down the road when we're done sewing the signatures in and move on to decorating our junk journal. Oh, and here we go. Here's another fun element that I want to add in one of my signatures in this journal. This is a vintage wallpaper border, and this is a beautiful nautical theme here with some seashells and some like plants, and it's just gorgeous, and it goes together so perfectly with our theme that I am going to cut a piece out of it like that, and it should fit really nice in one of my signatures. So I'm just going to go and iron it out so it doesn't curl like that on me, and I'm going to add it into one of my signatures. See, you guys, it's all about adding different and unexpected elements, because the more different like different types of items and pages and papers you add to your journal, the more interesting it's going to be to use when it's put together. It's all about the unexpected finds as you flipping through your pages. So let me iron that out and put it in. Let's do the fit check and make sure it all fits in our journal. Yeah, it's getting pretty full, but there is still room for decorating and adding ephemera, which is exactly what I want to see, right? See that? Still room right here. So we're good. This is a good number of pages. Our journal is not too full and not too empty. So now we are going to look at the size. Now that we know exactly where each page goes in our signature, we're going to start with our first signature first, and going to tap it like that. Make sure all the pages fit into this first cover page exactly where they belong, and we are going to cut them down. And now I am going to clip it right here along the bottom edge, and right here along the spine. And so now I'm going to measure again against my book cover, and I can see that if they all going to be the size of my first cover page, then they should fit in just fine. So we're gonna go slow with a steady hand, no rush here. Going to go slow, nicely, and here we are. Now we're going to cut the top off, and again we're using our first page as a guide because it seemed to fit very nicely when we just checked. So I'm going to use my cutting mat again and my metal ruler here, just like that, slow and steady with a nice sharp blade. Okay, I think that's all. There. Let me remove these clips and do my check again to make sure it fits good. It does. It fits in beautifully. It's tall enough. It's not sticking out anywhere. Yeah, it's a good fit. So now we're going to proceed to do the same with our second signature and third signature. We are going to clip them together and cut them down to size. And so now here I am with all my signatures cut down to the correct size. They should fit into the cover perfectly. We're doing one more check, and yes, this is a good fit. Nothing is sticking out anywhere. We are good to go. So now we can move on to sewing in our signatures. Before we can sew it in, we are going to have to mark our holes on here, on the spine, and we're going to have to make holes in our signatures. So in order to do that, to make sure that our holes are placed in exactly the right place, I like to make a template. Our spine measures actually 1 1/8 of an inch. So that means I'm going to cut 1 1/8 of an inch strip right here. Now that we have our template paper prepared, we're actually going to make it really easy, and we're gonna mark our holes without any measuring. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to fold it exactly in half lengthwise to find the center of my paper. So just like that, I'm gonna match up my corners and make sure they all meet. And there is my fold. There, so I folded my paper lengthwise. That's pretty good. And now I'm going to fold it in half this way. There. Folding it in half this way. And now I am going to fold it about right here, about maybe 1 inch or 1.5 inches down from the edge. So folding it this way. There. So now, instead of doing the exact measurements, this is going to help me place my holes. These are my central holes right here. I'm putting marks exactly on my central line in the center where it intersects with my horizontal lines. So these are my 3 holes, and now I need to add holes on for my other 2 signatures. So in order to do that, I'm folding it again. I'm folding it towards my central fold. There. And again, I'm using this fold line to mark. Let me move that. I'm using my fold line to mark my holes on it right here and right here. And one more signature, so I'm going to fold this edge now towards the center, just like that. And again, I'm doing all of that because I want to avoid doing some mess and doing some measuring. If you're okay with that, you can just measure out equal distances and get your holes that way. There, I marked my holes. And so now, as you can see, my template has 9 holes, 3 holes in the center, 3 holes on the bottom, and 3 holes on top. They're not holes yet, they're just pencil marks, but I am going to use this to make holes in my signature. So I'm putting it back in, and I'm going to attach it with this paper clip or clamp to my spine. There. It's very good. Making sure again that it's right in the center and it fits. And now I'm going to use my awl to poke those holes right where I marked on my cutting mat, so that I don't put holes in my table or whatever it is you're working on. There, I'm poking my holes. You can see that it's coming right through. And so now I need to make sure I find where I want my signature to live in this journal. So I am going to place it right here. And on my first page from my signature, I'm going to mark on the spine exactly where these holes are. Okay. There. My holes are marked now on the spine of my signature. So now what I'm going to do, to make it easy, I'm going to pull this first paper out, remove the cover aside. I'm going to open my signature and I'm going to place this paper that was on the outside, I'm going to place it on the inside. Before I do that, I'm actually going to poke through these holes that I just marked. I'm poking directly on the spine. There. And now I'm placing this page directly in the center of my signature, like this. All right, double check again that all your pages live exactly where you want them to be. Because once we poke the holes, that's where they're going to be in your signatures. So move them where you want them. Now that my pages are all gathered, I am going to use the holes that I just poked in my outer page. I'm going to poke right through at those holes through the spine. Do you see it? There. So that's my central hole, and I'm moving my awl up to my top hole, and I am moving my awl down to my last hole. There. Now I would remove this paper and put it back where it belongs on the front. There, it's all set. Now I'm going to use this same paper from my first signature because all of my signatures are exactly the same size. We made sure of that before. So I'm going to do the same thing using the same paper to all my other signatures in this journal. So again, I'm opening my second signature in the center. I'm making sure that all my pages placed exactly where I want them to be placed. Everything matches up to my liking, especially if you have smaller pages or little baggies or doilies. Move those up and down wherever you like them to go. Or greeting cards. It's another example of that. I'm going to move this one higher. There. And then right here, this is my center of the signature. I'm going to put this paper right in there. Again, match it all up nicely and find that central hole in my paper. Poke it right through. There. Top hole, right through. And the bottom hole, there, all done. That was my second signature. The holes are in place and it's prepared. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my last third signature. Now I'm pulling out this first paper and putting that on the front of my first signature where it belongs. It's exactly where I took it from. So now I'm going to take my waxed linen thread in this off-white color, and I am going to get approximately 3 lengths of how wide my journal is. There, 3 lengths is plenty. You can go anywhere between 2.5 to 3, and I'm going to take a big needle, thread in my needle, and I'm about to put my first signature in. We are going to do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. I will show you. This is a pretty easy process, but it could be confusing for the beginner junk journalers. So let me show you how it's done easily. So here's my threaded needle. I am putting it through my central hole. I'm starting on the inside of my pages. I put it through my central hole and through this first hole in the center on my spine, right here. There, straight through. Pull it through, making sure to leave a nice long tail on the inside, like that. All right, flipping over and go to the top hole right here. There we are. That's my top hole. Pull the needle through. Now go to the bottom hole here on the inside. Here's the bottom hole. Go straight through all your pages, straight through. And through that first hole right here in your spine. Right through the hole in the spine. And here we are. Make sure the tail is still there, that we don't lose this tail inside. And I'm going now from the bottom to the central hole right here, back to the central hole. So into the central hole and through the holes in our signature right here, through all of them. So here we are, and we are through. There, don't need the needle anymore. Now you have 2 tails. You have to make sure that each of these tails are on either side of this middle bridge right here. And so now that you made sure of that, you're going to pull on those threads to make it nice and tight. Don't rip your paper, but make sure it's nice and tight, just like a nice and tight string. Go back and make sure it's tight in the back. There. Okay, tighten it up again. And tie. And tie. And tie. And that's it. Your first signature is sewn in. You can now cut the ends, and you can leave them as short or as long as you like. So that's your first signature. It's been added to the journal, and you're ready to add your other 2 signatures in, which you're going to proceed doing it exactly the same way. And here we are, folks. We have our 3 signatures sewn in and ready. There, at this point, our junk journal is almost complete. And yes, and now there are a couple more things that I want to do to our journal. So first of all, I want to add a little rickrack here as a little extra decoration to our cover on the inside. I kind of feel like it gives it a nice finished look. So I'm choosing this pink rickrack, cutting it to size. And I am going to use my Fabri-Tac glue again, right here, nicely and gently. There. Doesn't it look better and looks like a complete finished project now? I'm going to go to our back cover and do exactly the same thing. I'm going to add pink rickrack right here on this end now. Very nice. There. Our rickrack is in place. And so now I'm going to go to the front of our book and I'm going to cover up our spine with the same fabric that we used on the inside right here. So I'm going to open our journal right in the center of our middle signature and I'm going to flip it over like this to put it nice and as flat as I can. And I already cut a piece of the same fabric. It's a little bit wider than 2.5 inches wide. And so now I'm going to use my fabric tack again and I'm going to apply fabric tack on the spine and on the edges. This glue dries pretty fast, so I'm trying to work fast as well. We're going to go this way. I want to make sure that I cover all my white tape that we used, my white bookbinding tape. Nicely and gently and firmly, I'm pressing my fabric down onto my spine. There, and now I'm going to close my book like this. To make sure everything is neat and to make sure that I placed my fabric exactly where it's supposed to go. Yep. And so here we go, folks. I decided to go with this vintage tulip trim. So I am going to add it right here. Let me cut it to size, to about how long we need it to be. And there. And now I'm just going to run a little bit of glue here. Okay, placing my trim. I'm going to place it parallel to the spine, so I'm looking at my spine as I place my trim, and I try to go as straight as possible. It looks pretty good. Yep. And I'm going to add the same trim to the front also. There. All right, now that my glue is almost dry, not completely, but almost dry, I am going to go ahead and snip off all my extras here. I'm gonna do it very gently because I don't want to pull out any material in case the glue is not completely dry yet. All right, very good. So there you go, friends. Our junk journal is pretty much complete at this point. Here's what we have. Here's our front cover, our signatures. Now, one thing you might have noticed is that I made some pockets and I still didn't close them off. So this is something that I'm going to do in the next video. I'm going to close off our pockets, add more pockets, and add ephemera to the journal, as well as probably adding a closure to the front. Thank you so much for watching this part of our video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel and please share this video with a friend. It's really going to help my growing YouTube channel. So thank you, friends. I'll see you next time.